The disgraced 45th President of the United States and First Lady Melania Trump walking to Marine One for their last ride on Marine One ever. That will take them to Joint Base Andrews, where the president will give an ad-lib speech. One can only imagine what he will say, and then they will fly to Florida. Dana?
He looks small. He just looks like a small man. And that is exactly the way that he has handled his presidency since he lost. And he just has appeared smaller and smaller and less courageous. And it does take courage. It takes fortitude. It takes a sense of self to be able to not do this, to be able to get into the motorcade with your successor, to take that ride, which we have seen and heard in so many history books. There are conversations that happen that are snapshots, that are legacy moments, and that is not happening.
They used to ride in the same motorcade.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, Donald Trump and Barack Obama, the man who he said wasn't born in the United States, sat in a car together 4 years ago. But watching this scene, you can see at the South Portico there of the White House, the president being saluted as he was walking out. He's now in Marine One. You're just reminded, as someone who's covered this president, he loves this part of the job. This part of the job where he is saluted, where he has the red carpet rolled out for him, where he gets to board Marine One. That is what he loves so much about the job. Not so much, it seems, the other parts of the job, which he has, by all accounts and all reporting, really not been doing since at least Election Day, really neglecting so much of the hard work of the presidency, but always wanting to have these moments where he's being treated with deference and being treated with the kind of pomp and circumstance of the job. That's what this is all about, even though there is so much grandeur to what usually happens at the Capitol with the outgoing president and the incoming president, and it is sad that we will be missing that today.
Marine One, preparing to take off, President Trump, outgoing President Trump, and First Lady Melania Trump aboard. The helicopter will take the first couple to Joint Base Andrews, where President Trump will deliver his final address as President of the United States. We are told that it will be an ad-lib speech. It is truly a historic moment. I have to say, there are tens of millions of Americans who are upset that Donald Trump will no longer be president, and tens of millions of Americans more who are relieved, and this moment could not have come quickly enough for them.
Yep.
A disgraced former president. We have not seen an incumbent president be defeated since George H.W. Bush. But George H.W. Bush carried himself with class and dignity. He was welcoming to Bill Clinton. They became friends. Van Jones, as a former White House employee, this is not a fun moment for a White House employee to see their former boss be defeated. But then again, there are a lot of White House employees who are very distressed with the ugliness that Donald Trump has wreaked on the country just since he lost.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of former White House staffers, I think a lot of human beings, people who have, functioning brain stems and beating hearts, to watch what's happened to the country. But, as you watch this thing lift off and go away, you got to imagine, for Muslim families who had a bullseye on their back, and women who were afraid to wear hijab because the President of the United States said people who pray like you shouldn't be here, shouldn't be allowed in the country. Imagine how they're feeling watching this, that there's a repudiation, a complete repudiation of that approach. The House, the Senate, and the White House given to a party that sees them as human beings. You think about all the immigrant families. You think about the babies snatched away at the borders. We still don't know what's going to happen to those babies. So this is I think a moment of relief for a lot of people.
Wolf Blitzer.
Yeah, this is a brief flight, this Marine One chopper flight from the South Lawn of the White House over to the Joint Base Andrews. But this is a moment, John King, this is a moment in history. The last time this president will be aboard Marine One, the last time he will board Air Force One, he will have a little bit, he'll have a little bit of a speech, I suspect. It looks like a tiny little crowd has gathered at Joint Base Andrews, but it looks like he's going to take a little tour over the city before he heads over to Joint Base Andrews.
One last look down at Washington. Remember 4 years ago, the question was, would the disruption of Donald Trump change Washington for the better? Would it break the paralyzed politics? That was the conversation 4 years ago. On this day, it is clear that the disruption of Donald Trump made Washington more divided. It included, in the end, a violent attack on the United States government by his supporters 2 weeks ago today. I believe that's the President's Hotel, the building you just saw the helicopter pass behind it, not far from the White House. And now he is behind us, Wolf, about to pass the Capitol building, where in under 4 hours, Joe Biden will put his hand on a Bible and become the President of the United States. You saw there the helicopter Marine One passing by the Capitol dome. Again, it's just hard to fathom. It was 2 weeks ago today that supporters of this president, carrying his flag and wearing his hat and wearing other hateful messages on their clothing, stormed that building because they believe the president's lies. That's not excusing their conduct. Dozens of them have been arrested and will face the authorities. But that is the final legacy of Donald Trump. He challenged the very system that made him president 4 years ago. He tried to ignore and defy in the end. And the system survived that. And today, Joe Biden, a person who respects the office and respects democracy and respects tradition, will become the president.
Yeah, he's flying over Washington, D.C. right now, heading towards Joint Base Andrews. A brief little flight. Looked like they wanted to do a little circle over the U.S. Capitol. As we could hear him where you and I are sitting, John, we could hear that Marine One flying just over our heads, not too far away at all. But should be landing Joint Base Andrews. It's what a difference 4 years makes. He had a very impressive, huge crowd at his inauguration. It's going to be a little pathetic, a tiny little crowd at Joint Base Andrews, where he's going to say goodbye.
As we watch this circling over the Capitol a little bit to give the President and the First Lady one last look, and again, when he gets off that helicopter, he will not ride it again as president unless he tries a comeback in 4 years. So I'm sure he wants to savor this moment, and he is entitled to that. But yes, on his way to Joint Base Andrews and then to Florida.
Caitlin Collins is watching all of this. Caitlin, you're getting some more information. What else are you learning?
Well, Wolf, we're watching Marine One right now, taking one final trip over Washington with President Trump and the First Lady on board. Barron Trump is already there. He's not on Marine One, but you see now it's flying just past the Washington Monument. They just flew over here, over the Capitol, where these preparations are underway for Joe Biden's inauguration. At any moment now in the next few hours, of course, the inauguration that the president will not be attending, but apparently wanted to see. And now you can see they just hung a left past the Washington Monument. They now appear to be en route to Joint Base Andrews. But it is notable the president took one last circle over Washington. Well, that's typically what the outgoing president and First Lady do after their successors are sworn in here at the Capitol. They get on Marine One, and then they are taken to Joint Base Andrews, where they typically would take a government plane to their next destination. Of course, that is Florida, but we are told by sources the president did not want to have to ask the Bidens for use of a government plane. He wanted to not leave Washington as an ex-president. So now he is still leaving Washington as the current president on Air Force One. And so that played a factor into this decision to break tradition and be the first president in over 150 years not to attend inauguration. But clearly he wanted to get a look at what the preparations are underway over here on the Capitol, Wolf.
Yeah, and Pamela Brown's also already getting some more information as well. What else are you learning, Pamela?
That's right. As Caitlin just mentioned, it's been 150 years since a president did not attend the inauguration of the incoming president. But as much as the president is breaking tradition, his final hours in the White House were very much in tradition with what you see in presidents in their final hours. And that was working on pardons. I'm told by a source close to the White House that he was in the White House working on the pardons with his daughter Ivanka by his side, who has been very involved in the criminal justice reforms in recent days. And he signed the paperwork, the final paperwork, just before midnight. His daughter Ivanka, I'm told, left around 10 and was making calls till 2 a.m. to some of the families impacted by the pardons.